Pooja, and while we are waiting for our other two panelists, I'll get to have a fireside chat with you, Dr. Kunjal. So I think, India's superpower is its people, for sure. I think that's where our biggest strength lies. But we need more than just jugaad. We need skills. We need education. And, while we are hearing of artificial intelligence, technology, edtech, skilling, all of that, there are still certain challenges when it comes to access, equity, employability. So really, I just want to open this discussion by asking you, what do you think is the single most thing that is required to bridge the skilling gap?
Hello.
Can we just get the mics replaced, please?
Hello.
Let's try this one. One second.
Hello.
Let's divide and conquer on the mics now while we get another mic. Let's have another mic on stage, please. Sir, you can hand it over to Ritvika. Aap unhe de dijiyega. All right. Okay, you now join us so kindly. Okay. Our panel is nearly complete. Thank you, Meghna, for being here. Let's ensure
Hi,
the mic
Meghna.
is working.
Just in time. So, in fact, I want the same question to be addressed to you as well. I was just asking Dr. Kunjal, what is that single most important thing that is required to bridge the skill gap? So, Dr. Kunjal, let's just hear it from you first.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much to ET Now and Times Network for inviting. Well, I represent the domain of online and distance learning in India. And the single most thing I personally feel which will help, us to bridge this gap of skilling is technology. Well, when we talk about, online and distance learning programs, mostly the candidates or learners who join these programs are working professionals, and the primary motive of joining the programs is basically skilling, reskilling and upskilling. Now, it becomes very important for us to understand that, when we want to bridge this gap, I was listening to the other panel members. Everywhere there was a mention of skills gap, right? So when we talk about skills gap, it becomes imperative for us to understand the importance of lifelong learning, right?
That's true.
Now, when we talk about lifelong learning,
Hi,
again,
Dr. Rajan.
Huge round of
Please join
applause,
us.
please, ladies and gentlemen. Our panel is now complete.
Yes.
With that, Ritvika, back to you.
So when we talk about lifelong learning, again, technology is something which plays a crucial role in bridging the gap. In future, I think this gap will be fulfilled by technology, most importantly, platforms which are curated with the help of artificial intelligence, which actually gives the advantage of offering personalized learning paths to individuals. I think that is something which will be able to align the individual's goals and interest while learning. So I think technology is something which is the future in education.
Technology it is. Meghna, do you agree that technology is the single most important thing that's required to bridge the skill gap?
I think, sorry, hi. Can you hear me? Hi. Sorry, I didn't realize the panel was starting. I was told it was later, but sorry for the delay. Thank you for having me. I feel, of course, technology is something that's through the years shown us how, in terms of education, in terms of training, in terms of skilling, how important it is as an enabler. But I like to take it a little further here, and I feel like, especially with AI, especially with all the challenges we're facing today, I feel we have to now learn to go beyond technology, beyond just skilling. Skilling is important, education is important. But I think the third pathway that we really need to now start thinking about is the creative pathway. In terms of beyond AI, doing things that AI can't do. And I think that one thing that AI can't do is the human factor. how do we innovate, how do we think creatively, and we as a human race have full potential to be able to do that. But I think as educators, we need to really, really now start looking at bridging that gap too. You know, our children today, I don't know, especially post-COVID, have a little bit of discomfort in terms of communication, right, and personal skills. And I think that is where we have to build on. It's going to be students or professionals who are going to be able to communicate well and have that human element to them that are going to really be able to succeed in the world of AI. So I think it's not just technology, it's so many other things as well.
Absolutely agree. And just picking up from what you said, I want to ask Dr. Rajan this question. You know, we are hearing of AI taking up jobs. AI is looked at as a threat, right? So I want to ask you, how can traditional education be balanced with technology such that we are not afraid of AI, but we are actually future ready for an AI-driven workforce?
So if we look at the history of technology, every time people felt that this technology is going to take our jobs. But every time the new technology has created the jobs. That is the history. And I remember even when the pencil, the slate came, the teachers opposed the slate. They said that this is not going to be useful. Even the pens, writing instrument came, and there is a research on that. They opposed the even pencil. So similarly, it is happening with the technology. AI may take jobs of some people, but it will open the doors for others. Provided you are creative, as she said. Provided you don't surrender to the technology. Those who will suffer, those who will surrender to AI. You don't surrender. Even AI fails. That we see. And then you have to be little bit creative. You have to tweak how to use AI, artificial intelligence. If you learn that tweaking, then you can cheat AI also. And therefore, you need not depend completely on the agent. What do you do when some agent comes to you? You ask some other person whether this agent is saying right or wrong. So you just see, same thing. For AI also, you should check. The only thing is you should not surrender. If you surrender, you have gone. Otherwise, there are a number of jobs, I tell you. Number of jobs which will be created. I just, if I have 30 seconds, then I can give you.
Please go on, yes.
In 2005, I had gone to US, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We were discussing about agriculture, how do we improve agriculture and then technology and all those things. So I met one lady. I asked, what do you do? She said, my profession is gossips. I never heard of that. But that is a profession. So professionally you employ people. And now we see the business people, the films people, and everybody, even the politicians, they will throw some gossip. But you need professional gossips. So similarly something will come.
That's very interesting, professional gossips. Wow. But, you know, Meghna, I'm going to come to you because you mentioned about how we need to be creative. Now, you're leading a film school and art education that was perhaps not recognized maybe a decade or 2 decades back is finally getting the recognition it deserves. But I want to understand, when it comes to creative education like films and media and art, you know, are we doing enough to also not just nurture their creative talent, but also prepare them with real world skills out there? Like, what is your take on that?
Absolutely. I don't think there's another way out of it. And I think that's exactly what we started with. The dream of starting Whistling Woods was not just to have an education business. It was to make sure that we enabled talented creative professionals to be able to hone their talent. So when we first dreamt of this, the industry is is large. As you know, we make so many films a year and TV and content, but there were no professional educational institutes. And when I say professional, I mean exactly that: industry enabled, industry ready. Students who graduate and are able to get picked up by the industry and can make a difference to the industry. So it's not just, our vision was not just to have employability, right? But for us to create or educate talent who can actually go out there and make a difference, which we've seen. We have 4,200 alumni now working in the industry. And I feel that is exactly what we dreamt of. We wanted to have a network of individuals so that somebody who doesn't have a film background or doesn't come from that, they have enough of a family out there in the industry who will support them and who will be around for them, which is exactly what we see today, right? So I think for us as a creative institute, it is, especially because of the challenges we face due to the stereotypes related, concerned with the industry, that yahan to bahut struggle karni padegi, parents are not sure, erratic times. So it was our responsibility to really, make creative education mainstream. And a few years back, we had the opportunity to offer degrees to our students through Tata Institute of Social Sciences. And I think that has really helped parents understand. Industry, of course, looks at the skill set, but parents really value degrees. And I feel that was a good move because with that, we've really been able to expand our audience in terms of the students we get to study film, fashion, design, music, and all the other courses that we offer.
Right. Dr. Sinha, coming to you, when we talk about West India, I have to talk about Gujarat. And we talk about Gujarat, I have to mention GIFT City, which is slowly becoming an education hub as well. A lot of global universities have started partnering. Do you see initiatives like these, in terms of helping us become, better when it comes to skilling, upskilling, education, and higher education as well, online education as well?
Absolutely. I think that's very much, present currently. Universities like us, what we do is we co-partner with the industry. We co-create the program. The curricula of the entire program is created by the experts from the university as well as experts from the industry. The delivery is also, done by both industry as well as the education institution. Examination, of course, is taken care by the university. So I think when we co-create the programs, there are a lot of programs which are co-created in the domain of clinical research, a lot of programs in medicine and paramedical sciences, a lot of program in engineering. There are, of course, a lot of programs, short-term, skill-oriented programs targeted to specific skill set of the employees, again, which are customized and tailored as per the requirement of the industry, which makes it very, very relevant when the entire program is delivered to those set of employees. Now, all these programs are basically outcome-based programs, as what she's also talking, that, when we deliver the program, the outcome is such that, it is able to enhance the skill set of the employees, and they are able to work on a certain task which is expected by the corporate from them.
Sure. Dr. Rajan, coming to you now, India is a huge country and it is divided as well. I want to ask you, because one of the biggest challenges for education is access, which I mentioned, when I was speaking to Dr. Kinjal as well. How can we make access to education, more accessible? How can we make education more accessible to lower income groups or maybe underserved communities, such that they get the same quality, if not at least a similar quality of education of, somebody who's studying in a private school?
See, accessibility, you will have to look at it from a different lens. Do you think that a child who's not coming to the university is not learning? We should ask this question to ourselves. And I have several examples. Say like Sehwag was from a village, but he has learned from Sachin Tendulkar without meeting him. So that is where the technology's intervention has helped. Now this technology intervention is helping by creating an environment of learning. Because some people, whatever you offer, if you are offering a non-qualitative education, there is no use of him or her. He is coming to a college or a university. What matters to me is, am I getting an education and skills which will help me to get an employment? I am not saying jobs. There is a difference between the two. Employment is different and jobs are different. Everybody can get employment, but everybody may not get jobs. And then partnering with them by giving them flexibility to learn. We wrote one of my friends from Orissa, who is a senior person, wrote a concept called village as a college. Village as a college. So we have a design school, okay? And the carpenter which comes to everybody is us, everybody at home is not learned. They have not done design program. Can we recognize them? Can we give them certificate? That is where the educational institutions has to go beyond their walls. The moment we go beyond their walls and certify them with whatever framework which you want to create, it is education. It is literacy, isn't it? A person who has never studied finance, but physics, not finance, but he is a hedge fund manager in US and earning a lot of money. So our definitions we will have to change. If we change the definitions, we will achieve.
No, absolutely agree. And education definitely needs to move beyond certificates and degrees. Tell me then, this is a broad question for all of you. How can West India's education model also teach students about critical thinking, entrepreneurial thinking, and most importantly, have empathy at heart? Let's start with you, Meghna.
So that's a great question. I think it will have to be a very deep-rooted pedagogical change that needs to happen. And it needs to happen now, even earlier, okay? Because earlier we were like, okay, we will introduce all these things when they get into high school. I feel the kids are so smart. We have 5-year-olds who are comfortable with holding the camera and making YouTube videos. I think it's important to start them very young, to be able to give them the, I have kids and I believe very strongly that we really underestimate children. We feel that they don't know, but actually they're really wise and really smart. It's what we do through our, traditional education is actually restrict their thinking by saying no to them for things. So what he just mentioned was so special because village mein jo aapki learning hoti hai, it makes you so strong and so resilient, which I think city kids miss out on, right? So I feel schools can be a great place to enable that, to be able to make students right from the start. My kids went to an IB school and I can vouch for that because right from the time that they were 5, they were not asked to write in the best handwriting or anything. They were asked to think creatively. And I feel if that we can do, we can change, we will see a very different country in the next 5-10 years.
Fantastic. Dr. Kinjal, I'd like to know your take as well, and especially in terms of also how some of the government initiatives like the NEP 2020, we have Skills India Mission, how they have also probably contributed to making education more holistic.
Surely. So when we talk about, the national education policy, at both the school level as well as the higher education level, there is an emphasis of incorporating life skills and vocational education, which also incorporates, social skills and entrepreneurial skills. So with these initiatives, I think, a lot of schools pan-India and a lot of higher education institutions have already started incorporating vocational education in their curriculum. And, when we talk about some projects given at both the levels, school as well as higher education, which basically builds the holistic, character of a student. But I also agree with what, she's telling, that it has to start early. Because most of the times we feel that when a child is entering the higher education, there is a lot of pressure on the child to learn the domain skills. And hence we feel that there are a lot of skills, if, it can be imbibed at the early age, it will help the higher education institutions to focus more on the domain skills.
Fantastic. Well, we are absolutely,
Quickly
yes,
add,
sure.
Including those skills, the most important and foremost is to teach them to be sustainable human beings. Yeah, to be able to be aware of the planet, what's going on. And I think when you start young, it becomes a habit. So I feel it's a huge responsibility on us as educators especially, and policymakers who are here to be able to enable that.
No, absolutely. We are completely out of time, but I think we had a very fruitful discussion. I would like to just ask Dr. Rajan to have the last word in terms of how do you really see education changing in the next decade or so?
So education is changing with the speed of 1.5. So I always say that whenever you watch some YouTube, my speed is 1, but young people's speed is 1.5.
1.5.
So education is changing with 1.5 speed.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for being with us today. This was a very, very interesting discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause. And Ritvika, if I could ask you to please felicitate each of our panelists with a token of our appreciation here at the ETNow.in Business Conclave and Awards. Let's present the mementos, please, for our distinguished panel.